Temple and eye wire screws. So with regard to temple and eye wire screws, there actually is a fairly big difference between the two. A eye wire screw tends to be a full thread screw. So you have your whether it's crosshead or flathead, we have it here. Eye wire screw, the thread will run all the way from the top to the bottom, like so. And so that will function perfectly fine. It's not a moving area of the actual frame itself, and so you don't have to really worry about it coming loose that easily. Usually, if it's coming out fairly easy or fairly often, it has more to do with the temperature variance, so screws fall out a little bit more often in the wintertime. Or it's a sizing of the actual lens. The lens is a little bit too big, you kind of screw it in and it kind of stretches a little bit, so it's not that great for it. The actual temple screws, these ones are actually half threads. So the difference between a half thread and a full thread is that a half thread is made specifically for a temple. And the reason being, so you'll have your screw here, and usually what you're going to end up getting is, your screw will be like this, and in this entire section, it's smooth. And so if you really think about it, when your hinge is actually opening and closing, it's going to be opening and closing along this section of the actual screw. And so it makes sense for it to be smooth to reduce friction when it's opening and closing on the actual temple itself. And having this lower friction will significantly reduce the chances of the actual screw coming loose. If there's a thread that runs all the way through, it's constantly touching against that, and it's constantly kind of twisting it back and forth. And so the screw can eventually come loose because of that. And it's actually a lot better to use a half thread screw than it is for a temple screw. One other thing to actually bear in mind is that when you're working with a hinge, so let's say your hinge looks sort of like this. The barrel is here, this is the hinge, comes here. Okay, so this is the female part of a hinge. Do this. There's the top part and there's the bottom part of it. One thing to know is that when you're actually working with this, the thread on a female portion of a hinge only exists on the bottom here. There's actually no thread on the top. And so when you're the value of having a full thread screw is actually not there either. And so when you're working with this, when the screw actually comes in and through, the only section that's actually being held and is securing the actual screw head to the hinge itself is the bottom portion. The rest of this area, I guess this entire area right here, that should be smooth to allow the hinge to open and close. And that's true of no matter how many barrel hinges that you have. If you have a 3-barrel, then the top 2 barrels still won't have a thread in it. It's only ever the bottom barrel that will have a thread in it.